All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the November LEA Special Education Point of Contact webinar. A downloadable copy of today's presentation is available for download through GoToWebinar. To access the document, expand the handouts menu and select the icon to download a copy. We'll give everyone a couple of more minutes to get logged in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Again, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the November LEA Special Education Point of Contact webinar. My name is LaShonda Wilson, and I am an Education Program Specialist here at OSSE. I'm joined by my OSSE colleagues across multiple divisions as we present content pertinent to policy, monitoring, systemic supports, and professional development for LEA SPED POCs. We'll begin this morning with our introduction, then move to policy reminders and updates and the Individual with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, monitoring and updates. We'll then segue into transportation reminders and updates and special programs reminders and updates, followed by teaching and learning reminders and updates, and then we'll conclude with announcements and reminders. OSSE is pleased to bring you this webinar every month. Our divisions coordinate to bring the most important information to support you in your roles as LEA Special Education Points of Contact. We hope you find this information today and also in the coming months helpful. It's always our aim to centralize resources and support you in easily referencing important information in your day-to-day activities. I'll hand it over now to Christy Weaver-Harris to review policy reminders and updates. Christy?
Good morning, everybody. This is Christy Weaver-Harris. I'm the Policy Manager in the Office of Special Education. So OSSE just recently yesterday released joint guidance addressing the intersections of LEA requirements under the dyslexia, our local dyslexia requirements, and IDEA. So as you all know, dyslexia is a named condition under the specific learning disability eligibility category. So a child with dyslexia may be found eligible under SLD or any other category that fits that student's characteristics. So as part of the dyslexia requirements, LEAs are required to administer dyslexia screeners that OSSE has a approved screener list. And we have received a few questions about what should we do with that data. So in terms of special education, the IEP team can determine whether and how to consider screener results in making eligibility determinations and designing IEPs. In terms of documenting those screener results, you should have an LEA policy that is consistent with your student record keeping requirements around how you're going to be documenting the results of those screeners. I'd encourage LEAs to develop internal policies and practices for both how you will consider the data that you get out of those screeners and how you will document that screener data. I'm going to drop a link to this document in the chat, but it is cross-posted on both the special education guidance site and the Dyslexia DC landing page. If you have any questions about dyslexia obligations, please contact Dustin Tamson, who is in our Division of Teaching and Learning. If you have any questions about special education obligations, as always, please contact my policy team at osse.dsepolicy@dc.gov. You can also email me directly. Next slide, please. And as a reminder of the resources that we released over the last 2 or 3 months, we have the handbook, the LEA Special Education POC role description, and the LEA Special Education calendar. The handbook tells you the what of LEA responsibilities. The role description can tell you the who of what you have to do, and the calendar will tell you when. Now, you can use those resources to determine at your LEA how you will get all those things done. You should use the handbook to support, again, the development of internal policies and procedures, which serves to both document clear expectations at your LEA, but also it supports continuity in an era of high turnover at schools. If you have any questions about these resources, please reach out to the contacts that are identified on this slide. And this is all for me today, but as always, I'll be keeping an eye on the questions box, so please feel free to pop your questions in there. Back to you, LaShonda.
Thank you, Christy. Now, a brief update in terms of IDEA monitoring reminders and updates. OSSE's transition from the District of Columbia Corrective Action Tracking System, or DC-CATS, to Stepwell will be delayed until further notice. Please continue to utilize DC-CATS for monitoring activities as appropriate. Please note that any Stepwell trainings which were scheduled for this week are canceled. Stay tuned for updates about Stepwell during the next monthly special education point of contact webinar. Now I'll turn it over to Dion McAdoo and Chelsea Greer for transportation reminders and updates.
Good morning, everyone. This is Dion McAdoo, Community Outreach Specialist for OSSE Student Transportation. I'm ready for the next slide. I want to talk to you guys about calendar updates today. Just reminding that the ability to update calendars in IDS closed in August of 2023. Any changes to your Bell schedules or early dismissals will now require the submission of an OSSE support tool ticket along with the calendar exception template. If you need an exception template, you can always email myself or Chelsea to receive the template, because the template must be submitted along with the OST ticket in order for your request to be processed. We have been receiving many submissions to update calendars for early dismissal dates and non-instructional days, as well as school bell times, which creates it creates a downfall of us having to make schedule changes at the last minute, which pretty much affects all of the students that we transport, because once we start to adjust those things, then we now have to realign our staffing and our scheduling for the day. So I need you guys to please note that corrections to non-instructional days must be first submitted in eSchool Plus to your calendars, and that only it applies to your non-instructional days. The early release request and the school bell time request will still need to be submitted via an OSSE support tool ticket. Not all requests for early pickups will be honored if submitted within that 2-week window. I will go over in my next slide the process of actually us being able to apply those changes. However, please note that within that 2-week window, there are still some system changes and some updates that are being made. And so we cannot guarantee that those early pickups will be honored. Emergency closures or adjustments can still be considered by sending a request to OSSE DOT at the osse.dotcriticalinfo calendar@dc.gov email address, and requests for calendar adjustments via email outside of an emergency will not be honored. We want to remind you guys that emails sending school status or future dates will not be honored unless they are reflected in IDS. We appreciate those reminders and those updates. However, if the information is not in IDS, then it is not reflected on our manifest. I'm ready for the next slide. As stated before, I wanted to kind of go through the work process or the workflow of when a calendar request is submitted to us via the OSSE Support Tool ticket. Once your submission is received, the submission is reviewed for accuracy. The status in OST is updated to investigating. That requires a 2 to 3 business day turnover as we are reviewing the information. And if there are questions or there are concerns, generally you will receive an email from Chelsea or myself asking for clarity. And we may even request a meet to be able to go through your template and make sure that the updates that you are requesting are what is being applied in IDS. If the updates or corrections are required, then once we reach out to you, we schedule that meeting or we gain that clarity. We then communicate it back to the OCIO team, who then reviews it and enters the information into IDS. After that is completed, our CIO team transfers submitted information into IDS, and they prepare the data transfer for our DOT routing teams. That requires a 2 to 3 business day processes, as there is a level of review and auditing that needs to happen prior to it actually being reflected on the manifest. Once our routing and scheduling team review the information and information is placed on our manifest, it is then sent over to our terminal management team, who reviews it, and our bus staff actually do a dry run of the schedule to make sure that it is efficient for travel. Once all of that is completed, the updates reflected on the trip tickets are communicated to parents and families, and the service goes live, or the student is picked up according to the schedule update, or the students are picked up according to school schedule updates. I'm ready for the next slide. Requesting schedule adjustments under emergency circumstances. I just wanted to review the differences between what needs to happen in terms of an update to your schedule or early release, and then what happens during an emergency situation. Please understand that OSSE DOT cannot guarantee that all requests will be honored. We have, in some circumstances, received requests an hour before your dismissal time. Please note that our staff are not full day staff. They work a split shift. And so if we do not have the staff available, we're not always able to honor the request, but we do make every effort to honor requests that come through that OSSE DOT critical email box. Acceptable adjustments include, but are not limited to, weather-related events, government-related events, i.e., we had some protesting and some things going on, some First Amendment activities happened previously that required students to be picked up outside of their normal schedule, and we generally tried our best to make sure that we accommodate that as quickly and as safely as possible. Other events include school safety and access issues, air quality control issues, and lockdowns, and things of that nature. Please note that calls to our Parent Resource Center are not confirmation of accepted adjustments. We need the information documented in an email form so that it can be shared quickly throughout the different teams within DOT. And making a call to the call center often leads to information being misconstrued, miscommunication of some sort, and then we have to then follow up with you, which kind of delays the ability for our buses to arrive as needed. I'm ready for the next slide. So what happens when we receive an emergency early pickup request? The email is received from our DOT critical info box. The Office of Customer Engagement begins to draft notifications to our terminal management team. Our terminal management team then begin to reach out to our bus staff. As stated before, our bus staff do not work a full day. They work a split shift, meaning they're able to accommodate the AM commute as early as 5:30, 6 a.m. They get a break within the middle of the day, and they're able to come back by the afternoon. Once the terminal management receives the information, they start reaching out to the staff. If they're not able to reach the assigned staff, they reach out to additional staff to cover the route at that time. Once the bus staff return, they have preliminary safety checks that need to be performed on the bus before they can transport any students. Once those preliminary safety checks are performed, the bus then arrives, well, it's en route and then it arrives to the school. Thank you.
All right, next slide. Good morning, everyone. I'm Chelsea Greer. I'm Dion's partner, community outreach specialist. Just want to go over some transportation policy updates. The amount of time, excuse me, my screen just went away. Apologize. Alrighty, the amount of time a student spends on OSSE DOT vehicle from onboarding to offboarding during a single commute, AM and PM, is known as the ride time. Effective Monday, August 28, 2023, ride time allocations for students have increased. The District of Columbia and surrounding jurisdictions have undergone major changes since the update of the OSSE DOT policy. The following factors were most prevalent when considering changes. Of course, we have new public and public charter LEAs supported by OSSE DOT. We have updated traffic patterns, construction and upcoming development projects, new business and personal property developments, distance travel to accommodate student support, and of course, staffing and vendors, drivers and nurses and vending services have all been taken into account. The outcome is efficient routing and soundness of scheduling. Next slide, please. All righty, so previously travel within DC was 75 minutes, and we definitely want you guys to really listen to this because I know it's been a couple of questions about the new travel time. So previously it was 75 minutes. Now the travel time within DC is now 90 minutes. Previously up to 6 miles outside of DC was 75 minutes. That new time is up to 6 miles out of DC is 105 minutes. Previously 16 to 15 miles outside of DC was 90 minutes. The new travel time, 6 to 15 miles outside of DC is now 120 minutes. And lastly, over 15 miles outside of DC is 90 minutes. The new travel time, 15 miles outside of DC is 190 minutes. Next slide, please. I believe that's it. If you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, please feel free to email myself or Dion. We'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dion and Chelsea. Next up, we will hear from Rita Larkins with special programs, reminders, and updates. Rita?
Thank you, LaShonda. Next slide. Okay, so this is just a reminder about accessing special programs. Remembering that prior to getting access to special programs, the data manager or the special ed data administrator must enter that staff into our all staff data collection template. And that is true for our LEA staff as well as our non-public staff. So that IDS is really that point where folks get access into special programs through the IDS all staff data collection. That is also true for our LMS access. So it allows staff to access different OSSE systems that includes the LMS and special programs. Once your information is updated in IDS by the LEA data administrator that can update the all staff, you'll see those changes reflected the next business day. Next slide. Just a little reminder about the federal roles and contact types. that OSSE will use those roles entered in the federal roles and contact types columns in IDS, and that will allow auto assignment of those security groups for special programs. Next slide. All right, so access for federal roles. Below you on the screen, what you're seeing are the staff roles that will come from that federal roles column in our all staff data collection. And that really impacts the roles that you see displayed on your screen right now, which are our related service provider staff. Next slide. Other contact types below, or POCs, that will come from the contact type in our all staff data collection include all the other LEA staff, right, that are not related service providers. So that's going to come from your contact type, whether that be head of school, principal, special ed coordinator, etc., as displayed on your screen. So those roles come from the contact type in all staff data collection. Next slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. All right. Next up, we're going to hear from Buell Yim with Teaching and Learning Reminders and Updates. Buell?
Thank you, LaShonda, and good morning, everybody. Next slide, please. OSSE continues to offer dyslexia awareness training as a part of DC Law 23-191, addressing dyslexia and other reading difficulties Amendment Act of 2020. This interactive course is required for all educators serving kindergarten through grade 12. Participants can earn up to 16 professional learning units for completion of all 3 modules. For additional questions, please contact Dustin Tamsin at dustin.tamsin@dc.gov. Next slide, please. Continued information on the implementation of DC Law 23-191. Over 12,646 educators have completed the dyslexia awareness module on OSSE LMS. LEAs are completing universal screening for K through 2 students, and 94% of reporting LEAs have selected one of OSSE's approved screeners. Please find the OSSE provided template for notifying families of students identified as being at risk for developing reading difficulties. DC Public School and Public Charter School Board submitted compliance letters on October 31st, and you can find the results for DC Public School compliance via the link on the handout. Public Charter School reports are forthcoming. Any additional questions, please contact Dustin Tamsin at dustin.tamsin@dc.gov. Next slide, please. OSSE is excited to announce our enhanced Secondary Transition Resource Hub. You can find comprehensive information on secondary transition process and discover valuable resources within the hub. As we celebrate the launch of new Resource Hub, we are extending an invitation to all schools in the district to acquire posters designed to promote secondary transition across the district. Secure posters for your schools by completing the interest form you can find in the handout. Please note that each school is limited to a maximum of 4 large posters and 4 small posters. Pickup dates and times are November 16th and 17th from 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. and November 20th, 8 to 10 a.m. in the morning and 3 to 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon at OSSE main headquarters on first floor, Eleanor Holmes Norton 1 room. If you have any questions, please reach out to Kalicia Beatty at kalicia.beatty@dc.gov. Next slide, please. Another exciting professional learning opportunities for the educators. OSSE is offering 2-part math teaching strategies bootcamp for any middle or high school math teachers in DC public and public charter school with fewer than 5 years of teaching experience. Any eligible educators may receive up to $1,000 stipend for their full participation. Part 1 is starting in November, and it is virtual and self-paced, led by Dr. Joe Bowler. Educators will learn how to teach visual mathematics and choose high-quality tasks and develop a growth mindset approach and learn how to foster students' growth mindset. Part 2 will start in December, and it will be live in-person sessions led by Grace Kellermanic and Amy Lucenta. Educators will be able to build understanding and facilitate quality implementation of the standards for mathematical practice, thereby ensuring that all students develop as mathematical thinkers and problem solvers. You could find the interest form in the handout. If you have any questions, please contact Miriam Oziel at miriam.oziel@dc.gov. Next slide, please. Don't forget to subscribe to OSSE Teaching and Learning Bulletin. All DC educators are encouraged to subscribe to the monthly TEL PD Bulletin to stay informed for any upcoming OSSE offered PD sessions, resources, and tips from the fellow educators. And the link is shared in the handout. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Buell. All right, we have a few announcements and reminders. If by chance you happen to miss a webinar, please be sure to visit our webpage for the LEA Special Education Points of Contact monthly webinar series. A recording and a PDF version of the slides will be available within 1 week of the live webinar. You can also watch previous webinars and download any training resources and materials directly on the site. And our next webinar is scheduled for Wednesday, January 17th, 2024 at 10 a.m. Be sure to take note of the meeting next month. We will not have, the meeting in January. We will not have a meeting next month. We hope you enjoy a restful holiday season and have a happy new year. Please be sure to mark your calendars accordingly, as we will not be here next month. Okay, it's that time again. Take out your cell phone, turn on your camera, and scan the QR code you see on the screen here. You can also access the link to the survey at the bottom of this slide. Each week, we ask that you complete the survey. We utilize your insights to provide us with immediate feedback as to whether or not we're meeting your needs. The survey is very quick and will take you less than 5 minutes. Use this as a forum to request specific content and other resources you would like for us to cover. We are here to assist you, so we need to hear from you. I'll pause on this slide for a few moments to give us a couple of minutes to go over any questions and direct those questions that we've received in the chat, and also to give you some time to complete the survey. Christy, do we have any questions that have come in today that will benefit?
Yeah, we have a few questions to go over. Somebody asked what POC role has access to eSchool Plus to update calendars, and that is your LEA data manager. I know that there can be challenges with this because LEA data managers, as everybody in an LEA, they're very busy, and it can be really hard to get things communicated to them and get them done. So you're going to need to connect with that LEA data manager, and your LEA needs to strategically assign who the LEA data manager is to make sure that you're able to implement all of those requirements. We got another question about OST tickets related to child count issues and errors. I know that child count's been really challenging this year. We have extended the deadline for resolving child count errors to December, but all OST tickets related to child count do need to be submitted in the system by this Friday. So that deadline was not extended. I checked with our child count team. And those are the only questions that we had this week.
Thank you. Sorry about that, folks. I forgot to unmute my mic. Um, Again, thank you, Christy. If you have any questions outside of those that have been addressed today, please be sure to reach out to any of the POCs that have been named today for those specific items. Also, bear in mind there is a copy of the handout attached here under your handout section, so you do not have to wait and download from our website. You can download it directly here. And with that, we've reached the end of our webinar today. Thank you everyone for joining us. Again, don't forget we do not have a webinar next month. We will be meeting next month in January. Have a happy new year and we'll see you back here in January. Have a great day, everybody.